Hello everyone, I'm Danae. Welcome to my art room. I'm so glad you're here today. I'm going to do a collage today. If you are like me and you jelly print or you do anything with paper, then you probably have lots of bits and scraps and doodles, things that maybe like this I did as a warm-up for a painting day, and they're just sitting around doing nothing. So today I'm going to make one of these cute little town collages using my scraps. So this is a previous video that I've made, and I will link it in the description box below if you would like to see that. And today I'm going to be working with this beautiful color palette. I have already a background, which I made quite a while ago, and actually I don't even remember what I made it for or what I used, but it works really nice. It's kind of a minty teal green, so it fits in this color palette really well. So I'm going to use this background, and I have also a video on how I prepare my edges so that I get really nice clean edges, and I will also post that in the video link below. So if this sounds like something fun, then please join me and grab your scraps of paper and let's make a fun collage. There are several things you can use to make a collage like this. I'm going to be using mostly matte medium today. I also have this regular gloss gel. This I use if the paper is really heavy and needs extra help sticking. This is really good for light paper. You can also use a gloss medium. You can use a glue stick. You can use PVA glue. There's lots of things that you can use. But for today's video, I'm going to be using mostly matte medium and maybe some of this. And since I'm not going to be painting, I'm going to go ahead and remove my tape now. This tape has been on this page for a while. Like I said, I don't remember when I painted this background. Obviously, I had in mind a project at the time, but that inspiration has been replaced by other creative pursuits. So you can see how yummy these edges are. Just straight and clean. But since I'm not going to be painting anymore, I don't need to worry about the borders. This white tape that I'm using is an artist tape. That's what it's called, artist tape. It's really good. Very rarely do I have any problems with it ripping my paper. And this paper is 110 pounds. So this is Fabriano paper. I love their paper. It's really nice. This is mixed media. And I'm working 7 by 10, but you can work whatever size you have. And this is just a bit of palette paper just to keep my cutting mat neat. It's not fancy, but it does the job. All right, so I'm probably going to stick with this similar design since it is a small space. I'm going to do 4 or 5 buildings across, and I always start with the building base. So the main building frame. I pick my favorite papers because those are going to be the biggest and you'll get to see them the most. And I might just put this on fast and do either music or voiceover, and you can watch how I create it so that you can create your own beautiful works of art. All right, let's get going. So I've opted to do a voiceover, mostly because I have a hard time finding music that, I mean, I would want to listen to. My channel is not monetized. I'm kind of, hoping in the future to get there, but right now it's not monetized. So I just do this for fun because I love it. I love to share my art. I love to, hopefully send some good ideas out into the world, things people can do to use their artistic talents. And so I don't want to pay for music to use in, a situation like this. So I have a hard time finding free music that I like. So we'll just stick with the voiceover. Here I'm just looking for my building shapes, and I want a variety of colors. I'm looking for a variety of sizes. And I decided that I wanted to try to fit 5 into this little scene, whereas in the previous video I had 4. So they were bigger buildings. And so now I'm trying to find some skinny shapes. So that it's just slightly different. And obviously you can do as many shapes, as few shapes. You can make them big, you can make them tall, you can stack. So you have a row of shapes in the front and you have a row of shapes behind them. This is a fun and easy way to use your prints, and the results are never disappointing. I've been doing collages like this for several years now, and I'm just always amazed at how cute they turn out. I just really feel like you can't mess this up. So I switched here to using the gel gloss because it's quite warm in my room, and I found that the matte medium, because it is a thinner consistency, was drying really fast. And sometimes I don't put things on really straight to begin with, and so I need a minute to kind of correct the position, and the matte medium was just drying so fast and sticking so fast. So I've switched now because of the thicker consistency. This gives me just a few minutes to position, to move, to make sure that it's, stuck in a place that I would like it to be stuck in. And now I'm going to add the roofs. So this is just the way I do them. I like to add the buildings, then I add the roofs, because those are the sort of the biggest details in the collage. And again, I'm looking for colors. I want them to coordinate, but I don't necessarily want them all to match, because each house is unique and different. And, each house kind of represents somebody else's style, choice, and personality. And I like to cut the roofs in different shapes as well, just so that there's some interest when you look at the collage. It's just different and unique in all aspects. But you can also, using different papers, cut the same shapes, and you're still going to get a really cute, adorable design at the end. And so I'm moving this roof down to make this house really short. I like this bit of bronze that's on this paper. I'm not sure what happened with the video there. I must have stopped it for some reason and then finished cutting it out. But I like this little bit of bronze on the very bottom. This paper is a little bit heavier. It's I think it's cardstock, or maybe it's mixed media paper. I don't remember exactly. And those are just colored water droplets that I've made those dots with. I put water onto the paper and then I filled the water with a little bit of color. If you know the creator Kat Rains, she does a lot of really fun mixed media techniques, and I'm pretty sure I got the idea from one of her videos. This is a piece of paper where I had used a stencil and some Astro Paste. And so it's really glittery. And I thought that would be a fun roof. It would certainly shine and shimmer. And I mean, his next door neighbor has that Lunar Paste decoration. So, you know, you got to keep up with the Joneses. And here I tried making a pointy roof, but it was too tall. So I've just cut it off. And my roof here goes a little bit off my border, which, you know, just makes it fun to look at. So now in my mind, I'm going to start with what I consider the embellishments. I'm going to start adding the doors and the windows and some chimneys. You can add all kinds of things to your little town collages. And you can even add painted in elements as well. At the end, you can paint in some cute elements. So this is just a little punch, a round punch. It's quite small, so it's a good size. I'm just making some window coverings. I really like this dark brown, makes a perfect door. It's really dramatic too against that very pale building facade. So the dark brown really stands out. And then the pink reflects that pink that's in the roof. So it's cute and coordinated. And then these are my little window toppers. If you don't have a circular punch, you can draw a circle. You can just hand cut a circle. You can make them triangles if you have a square. If you're better at cutting straight shapes, you can just cut a square and then cut the squares into triangles and put those on top of the window. So here's my next door. And at first, I think I really like these green windows. This paint has some pink peeking through underneath, so it coordinates really well with the house, with the pink and the teal. But I must have decided it was too close, so I've moved it off down the street, and I'm cutting out some more windows. So this house will have some circular windows. And now I'm in the hunt for a door. This is a piece of patching tape. It's a supply that you can get at a Home Depot or and it's used for patching holes in the wall. So it's hard to see maybe in the video, but it's got this really cool thatched design, and I've painted over it anyway. It just makes a really fun piece here. And you never know when you've cut something out, the negative shapes. Sometimes I use the negative shapes, which add a lot of really cool and unexpected interest. When I put the doors onto my buildings, I always let the frame door hang off just a tiny bit. Rather than making it in line with the building perfectly, I let that door frame hang over just a tiny bit. And I decided as I was about to glue these on that maybe that dark shape at the bottom of these windows, maybe that's like a flower box. So I turned them over so that the black is on the bottom. You can just let your imagination create so many things. This is also quite sticky on your fingers. Oh, here, I'm just showing you that I've decided to switch out the circles for dark circles. And I'm going to use this hole punch to create a half a circle. And now I've got my doors and my windows. This is maybe an apartment building or just a house with many stories. They're very cool circular windows. So that's sepia. It didn't focus, but this is like a brown. I'm just adding it to the edges because this is also quite thick paper. It might be mixed media paper or a cardstock. And so I just could really see those white edges because it's not going to glue down really flat like some of the thinner papers will. So I just going over them to clear out those white edges. Sometimes I draw in window frames. Sometimes I draw in curtains or paint in curtains and features over the window if I don't want to add collage elements. Sometimes I just leave them. You can let your imagination decide what it is that the house is looking like. So these little green stamps I bought as a set. There's several round shapes. There's a couple of flowers. There's the circle. There's the square. I think I just got them from Amazon. So here I'm taking the square and making two triangles so that now these windows will have little toppers. Oh, maybe not. Just kidding. Here we go. We needed some purple window toppers. There we go. The great thing about collage is that the art is already done. You know, the art is on the paper and you just have to cut it out and position it. And sometimes for me, that just takes away some of the stress of creating. I love this little circular. It could be a weather vane, it could be a chimney. So cute. But, and again, I'm just covering up the white edges. But when you're using paper you've already created for your collage, then you don't have to worry about the design of the paper. You can just look for the designs that have already been created, and then you just cut them out and use what you already have. It makes it a really stress-free way of creating art. So this could be maybe a little chimney, maybe it's a little railing, kind of a Victorian look. Maybe there's a little balcony up there and it's the railing. So I also cut out some chimneys for that house on the far right, which I think look like antennas. It's got kind of an alien look now, which I think is really adorable. I cut these shapes out thinking that I would use one for a fancy door. I like the design at the top. And that's a stamp I use quite often for fancy windows and fancy doors. And then again, I'm looking here at using some of the negative space, which I don't decide to use the punch cutouts, but I do decide to use this paper to create some negative space. And I'm just going to draw some squares and then cut them out. I try to do it with my little knife here, but the blade excuse me, the blade is dull and I needed to switch for a new blade. So it does not work. So I end up cutting it out. And then I'm going to use that instead of cutting out window squares. I'm just going to use the negative space here, which adds its own kind of interest. So this is a piece I had already. I didn't cut that one out. I have a little bucket of shapes I've used, and that was something that I had made at some point along the line. And I think it looks like a gate. So I decide that I want to put this gate in front of these houses, but it's not quite long enough. And I fussed with it for quite a while because I really like the color of it. It's kind of a burnished brown. And so I really wanted to use it. So I thought, well, maybe I could add a garden gate door. So I pull out some inspiration to see what I've done in the past, how I've used the same idea and filled up extra space. This is a punch I clearly use a lot as a gate. I like it. I've used some washi tape there. So I think I'm going to try to do like an arch and see if I can create an arching gate entrance that will help mask the fact that there's a gap there. And when I went to cut this piece out, I really liked those orange circles at the bottom. So I kept them to see if I could use them. And in retrospect, when I'm watching this back, that actually didn't look too bad and probably would have been fine. But at the moment, I didn't like it. So now I've gone back to my stash and I found some green ones that I'm going to try because I have more of that. So I know that I can cover up both buildings and maybe put the gate in the middle. And again, that also doesn't look bad in retrospect, but at the time I wasn't feeling it. So I pull out this punch. It's a Martha Stewart punch. And I've got some bronze paper here. And I just decide to cut a new gate so that I can have, or a new fence, sorry, a new fence so that I can have one that's long enough to go all the way across both of those buildings. And so now I can cut it to any size that I want. I can also decide how tall the gate is going to be, or the fence, as well as how wide the fence will be. And I could have just put it in front and left it. That would have been fine. It would have been a cute look, but I was kind of already like in the mind frame of wanting a gate, a door to get into, to go through and get into that property. So I fussed with it for a bit too. And you can see I'm still like, I'm not sure. I try a couple of different things. When it gets down to the little details, I find that sometimes the work does, for me, it stalls a little bit when there's just the little details left to decide on. I sometimes stop moving as quickly. So this fence and this gate give me a little run for my money, trying to figure out how to use my paper's creativity. And the more I look at it, the more it would have been really fine with just the gate in front of the houses, the fence in front of the houses. It didn't need to have a garden door to go in and out of. I even try. I do come up with a solution, which is this punched out piece. I like how it kind of matches the house behind it. And then I give the house there this pretty door. And because I want it to be seen behind the fence and the bottom of the house isn't going to be seen, I can glue that a little higher instead of putting it down in line with the rest of those doors. If I had done that, then the door would have been hidden completely by the fence. So there it is, just peeking up at the top. And I'm determined to have this garden door as an entrance. So I have a little leaf punch out that I think about adding. And then I decide, here's some more of those green. This is all the green stamps came in one set. So this is a little flower shape. And I just decide to go all in to really exaggerate that this is the entrance to the garden. So I've got my little flower and I'm going to use that leaf to really exaggerate the garden entrance. And this is what's fun about this type of collage. You can get as detailed as you want to get. You can put a lot of little details in, or you can leave it with fewer details, and it's still going to be, either way, it's going to be a really cute design. So here, now I've got my garden wall and my garden gate. And there's a lot of space above that little short house. So I decide to add some stars. And I play around a little bit. I think, could it be a weather vane or could it be a funky chimney? But ultimately I decide that no, I'm gonna make them stars. So I've got my little stars up in the sky. And once I add the stars, I realize that I need to make a change. and I need to change this daytime scene with the really beautiful bright blue sky into a nighttime scene. And so this is where the video is going to end for today, but this is not the end. I'm gonna let this dry, and I decide to paint a night scene. So it's gonna take some time to let all this glue dry, and yeah, thanks for joining me for today. Once both of the videos are live, I will link the second video to this one. If you're watching this and it's just come out, then the part 2 is going to be on YouTube soon. Thanks for joining me today. This is such a fun project. I've had fun doing it, and knowing what the end result looks like, it's going to be worth coming back and seeing. And while you wait for part 2, enjoy these other videos. I'll see you soon, and I hope that you have a great time creating. Bye!